Democrats are hoping Georgia can stay blue after last week's win in 2 Senate races gave them a majority in the upper chamber. Reverend Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff both won their elections last Tuesday, defeating incumbents Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue. Each victory was by a larger margin than President-elect Biden's Peach State win in November. As Democrats keep winning in Georgia, one longtime conservative member of the party has had enough of the Democratic Party. Former Georgia State Representative Vernon Jones is becoming a Republican. He claims that even after last week's violence on Capitol Hill that led to at least 5 deaths, it is Democrats who are sowing division and hate. Vernon Jones joins me now from Atlanta. He served in the State House from 1993 to 2001 and again from 2017 until just yesterday. He's the founder of WakingUpAmerica.us. Representative Jones, thank you so much for joining us. You have been an outspoken critic of the Democratic Party dating back as far as your loss in the 2008 Senate primaries. Your support for Republicans is certainly not new. You voted for President George Bush and you spoke at the Republican National Convention after you endorsed President Trump in April of last year. So I'm just curious as to the timing of your decision coming just after the violence on Capitol Hill. Why did you decide now was the time to leave the Democratic Party?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And secondly, I didn't leave the Democratic Party left me. And ironically, the bigotry in the Democratic Party is at display because when Governor Zell Miller, who was a United States Senator, Democrat both times, when he supported President George W. Bush and spoke at the Republican National Convention, the Democrats were hashtag crickets. Why? Because they don't want independent African Americans to be able to vote independently. They want to keep them on their plantation. And I'm just not a part of that plantation. Secondly, your previous guest was intellectually dishonest. I was there at the rally that was hosted by private individual citizens, Americans, and patriots. And this president did not at any time say anything to encourage anybody to go as a mob and attack the United States Congress. There's zero tolerance for any type of that behavior. You cannot explain that. But ironically, we see right now how this past summer and spring, all of those violent attacks by Black Lives Matter and Antifa, where people were killed to the tune of about 26, I believe, including a 1-year-old baby child in a stroller in New York, an 8-year-old baby daughter in Atlanta, Black businesses burned, businesses period burned, police officers assaulted. Not a single time did anyone call them domestic terrorists. Joe Biden or no one else. Why? Because they wanted them to do that to help them win the presidency. So the Democrats has a lot of hypocrisy going on right now. And they stormed, by the way, and you know this too, federal courthouses, police stations, police cars burned. All of that happened by Antifa and Black Lives Matter, and still Joe Biden has not called them terrorist organizations. Now,
Representative Jones, just to be fair, Representative Jones, just to be fair, though, President-elect Biden did condemn the violence during the BLM movements. I reported on it. We heard him say it. He did condemn the violence. I just want to
that's incorrect.
Put that
Maybe
aside.
He condemned the violence, but he did not say Black Lives Matter. You guys are terrorists. You've killed people. You've destroyed federal property and private property. He said Antifa was an idea. Antifa is not an idea. Ask me. I was subjected to the attacks of Antifa and Black Lives Matter when I left the United States, when I left the Capitol, I should say the White House, after the president accepted his nomination from the Republican National Convention. I didn't hear from anyone to call me to ask me about my experience, the horrific experience where my life was at stake. I felt my life at jeopardy. So he may have condemned violence, but he did not call them out by name, and he should have. And where was Congress? Nancy Pelosi, why didn't they pass a resolution urging Black Lives Matter and Antifa to stop their violence? As a matter of fact, if you look at some of their quotes, including Nancy Pelosi, she said, well, people do what they want to do. She also, I should say, Maxine Waters, had encouraged people to find them in restaurants, public places, and to attack people, and on and on. So let's be honest here, and let's be clear. There's no room for violence, but there is no room, there's not enough room for Americans who feel like they have not been heard, who want to exercise their freedom of speech and to march on their Congress, go to the people's house in a peaceful way, because thousands were not a part of it.
Representative,
and let's be clear about that.
Representative,
and so it's just double
but
standards.
let's be fair.
And it's just being intellectually dishonest.
Well, but let's be fair. I mean, the Stop the Steal, conspiracy certainly had a role in working up this mob. You spoke at Wednesday's rally ahead of the riots. Do you feel any personal responsibility for what happened on Wednesday? Actually,
Stop the Steal did not encourage any violence. Antifa encouraged violence. There have been a number of marches in Washington where hotels were flooded with Antifa, people coming out in Black lives, turning over dinner tables, running through the lobby.
Representative Jones, I'm sorry, I have to correct you there. There is absolutely no evidence that Antifa, Representative Jones, I'm sorry, I have to correct you there. There's absolutely no evidence that Antifa was involved in the riots, and there is plenty of evidence that right-wing Trump supporters were. So we're going to have to move on if we have any time left. I just do want to.
I am a Trump supporter. I've been a Trump supporter. Am I right-wing?
Well, far right.
See, when you say stuff like that, you fuel the fire. The media is probably the biggest culprit in encouraging this type of behavior, because you okay when some organizations do it. You say buildings are burning.
Issue with that, Representative Jones.
Well, there's peaceful, mostly peaceful protesting, and it's just look at Seattle, look at Portland. Didn't it happen there? Didn't people die? Did Nancy Pelosi take any action in Congress?
Representative Jones, we don't have a lot of time left, so I just want to ask you about Georgia. Can I ask you about Georgia, because we don't have a lot of time left? I just want to ask you about what do you think is going on in your state, since right now Georgians seem to be looking for something new. They have elected 2 Democratic senators. What do you think is behind that, and do you think that, are you excited about Georgia sending the first African-American senator to Congress?
Well, here's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about the people in Georgia. We're not going to lay down. And they let their legislators and Congress and everyone else know that they didn't believe that there was a transparency in the elections, that there's a void of election, I would say elections integrity. We do know for a fact that Stacey Abrams and the Secretary of State cut a backroom deal that created this cloud and an environment of mail-in ballots. I was a state legislature. According to our Constitution, only the members of the Georgia General Assembly can change state laws, not the Secretary of State. And so I'm excited about people did not lay down. They were aware of that. Now, Georgia is not a blue state. Georgia is a red state. Let's be clear about that. But many people were very discouraged by what happened with the election process. And we like to call it not so much voter fraud, but election fraud. We do know that the Secretary of State did something with the ballots, mail-in ballots with Stacey Abrams that should not have happened. We also do know that there were ballots that were counted when people were not available, poll watchers. That is a fact. We also know that many people outside the state were sent many mail-in ballot request forms, and they do not live in the state of Georgia. So what my goal is to push for election integrity. My goal is to make sure that the Georgia General Assembly, and I'm going to lobby them on behalf of the people and myself, to make sure that we have a process that we restore the confidence and the trust to Georgians and actually across the country. So I'll be traveling across the country talking about those issues. Now, as it relates to Georgia's future, I am, what my role is, I feel as though I'm bringing brand new ideas to a grand old party. I'm bringing a grand new party to the grand old party, new faces, new ideas, new energy, because we believe that most people are at the heart of supporting the Constitution. When I look at Raphael Warnock and Ossoff, they
I'm so sorry to interrupt.
The police department. They believe
we have run out of time. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, we've run out of time. Former Georgia State Representative Vernon Jones, thank you so much for joining us. I just do want to mention that your own state election officials who are Republicans said that there was no voter fraud in Georgia. Thank you so much for joining us.
That's not quite true. Let's be honest here. The Secretary of State, I wish he had come out and said that he went in the background, in the back room, and did a backroom deal with Stacey Abrams that changed the mail-in process. That is not his responsibility. So for him to say that, he is unequivocally and actually apparently incorrect. I do not like to call someone a liar, but he was intellectually dishonest on what he did. Why didn't he tell the members of the General Assembly what he was doing while we were in session? Because it's our responsibility. So I just want the facts to be out there, ma'am. That's all, the facts.
Vernon Jones, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.